All right, so this was our warm-up that talked about the stuff from Friday. We just did a couple little reviews, that type of a thing. Okay, and then we're going to start. We answered questions, which was none. Nobody had any questions, so we're going to start right into our assignment, which is weird. Okay, so what we're going to look at today is something called, well, let's start with this. So right now we are working with quadratics, which is ax squared plus bx plus c, we'll just say is equal to 0. That's our normal quadratic. How do we know it's a quadratic? Because it has the power of 2. Okay, so far what we've done to solve these is we've used the square root. In Algebra 1, we factored, and we've done a couple of factoring ones here. Okay. And then we are going to look at today using our quadratic formula. And there's one more, but we'll cover that on Tuesday, tomorrow. Okay. So the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So you're going to use this, the quadratic formula, when this or this doesn't work out. Okay? When one of those two don't work, you're going to want to use the quadratic formula. Okay? Okay, so let's do a couple practice problems with it. You guys got that all written down over there? All right, so let's do number 1. Let's go x squared minus 12x minus 28 is equal to 0. All right, so one of the things you can always do is you can always come down here and just write out what the 3 letters are. Okay, so what is our a? What's the coefficient in front of x squared? 1. Okay, what is our coefficient in front of the x? Negative 12. Good. And then what's the c going to be? Negative 28. Okay, so we're going to have x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So if I substitute that in, I have a negative, and then I'm just going to put negative 12 like that. That way I don't forget it. Okay? I can keep track of things. And then I'm going to go plus or minus negative 12 squared minus 4a, which is 1, and then c is negative 28. I'm going to put that in a parenthesis, or excuse me, in a radical, all over 2 times 1. Okay? So I'm going to go with, I'm going to just do this stuff inside the radical first, okay? So I know this gives me a positive 12 plus or minus gives me 256 all over 2. Okay? And I'm just going to type in the square root of 256 in my calculator. And if I do that, it gives me 16. So that one simplifies for us, right? Okay. So I'm going to have 12 plus or minus 16 divided by 2. So I have two problems. I have 12 minus 16 divided by 2. I have 12 plus 16 divided by 2. So 12 minus 16 is negative 4. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And then 12 plus 16, 28. 28 divided by 2, 14. So x is equal to either negative 2 or 14. Just like that. So yeah, I showed a lot of work. You can probably simplify that down to you. So let's see here. Let's go to number 2. Let's do x squared minus 22x plus 121 is equal to 0. I would personally factor this one, but you can practice your quadratic. So what's A? 1. B is, and then C is 121. Excellent. Okay. Negative B plus or minus. Okay, I'm going to pause it here. All right, so we plugged in our formula to our quadratic. We got 22 plus or minus square root of 0, which is 0. So we're left with 22 over 2, which is equal to 11. So your answer, x is equal to 11. So again, this is where we cross the x-axis. Cross the x-axis. Okay, so let's look at number 3. So we've got 2x squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. So A this time is 2, B is negative 4, and C is negative 5. Okay? See if you can come up with your solution. Then there's your, that's what I got. So I'll just kind of skip down because hopefully you can substitute in. So I got the square root of 56, all right? That's not a perfect square. So I come over to here and I did a little side work so you can see it. I know that 56 is 4 times 14. So then I take the square root of both of those, right? Square root of 4 is 2, and 14 still doesn't simplify down. So my answer is going to be 2 square roots of 14. Okay, so I come over to here and I substitute, instead of 56, I put 2 square roots of 14. Now, each of these coefficients all have 2 in common. So I simplify everything by 2, so my exact answer is 2 plus or minus the square root of 14 over 2. If we ask you to simplify it and give me a decimal approximation, then change that into a decimal. If not, leave it like that, okay? Now, don't cancel the 14 and the 2, okay? This is the square root of 14, not the number 14, okay? There's a big difference. I think I've hit that enough times, okay? How many roots are there, by the way? How many roots do you have here? How many answers do you have? How about that? 2. How do you know you have 2? Plus or minus. So you've got 2 roots. Okay? These are called irrational roots because they don't simplify because you have a radical. How many roots do you have here? 1 root. 1 real root. How many roots do you have up here? Just a second. I gotta add. shoot. What we got is 2 real roots. Okay? So you got 2 real roots here, you got 1 real root here, 2 roots, but they're irrational roots because they have the radical in it. Okay? All right, so number 4, you have x squared minus 4x plus 13 is equal to 0. All right? See if you can. All right, so what we did, we substituted in, we got negative, the square root of negative 36. So then we had to do our imaginary number. So we did 6i. 2 can go into all these terms. So we get 2 plus or minus 3i, which gave us 2 complex roots. Okay. Okay, so we're talking about the discriminant. It's just the part inside the radical. We first talked about there being 2 real roots. Those 2 real roots, once you do this number here, you should get a positive result, and it's a perfect square. Okay? And then if we go to, okay, so we got 2 more up there. We did 2 irrational roots. Your discriminant is not a perfect square. You'll need to simplify the radical, not as a decimal. Leave it as a radical. And then 2 complex roots, discriminant is negative, and it can be a perfect square or an irrational number. You're going to have an imaginary number definitely in there, okay? So let's do a couple examples. Okay, so we're just doing the discriminant on this one. So we know that it's b squared minus 4ac. We're going to take our negative 12, square it, minus 4 times 9 times 4. So 144, because 12 squared is 144, minus 4 times 9 times 4. That gives us 0. So we would say, when the answer is what's your discriminant say? You're going to say 1 real root. Okay. And then our second example, we're going to say is x squared minus 11x plus 10 is equal to 0. So you can come out here and put a, b. So we would go with b squared minus 4ac. So again, negative 11 squared minus 4 times 1 times 10. So 121, because negative 11 times negative 11 is 121, minus 4 times 1 times 10 gives us 81. So that's a positive value, and it's a perfect square. So this one's going to be 2 real roots.